so much. I can't tell you how humble your response makes a big star like me feel. Please be seated. I'm so excited to be here this evening. And even though I wasn't the Palms' first choice as a headliner, it doesn't really bother me because Peter Andre is such a different type. Do I hold a grudge? No. As David Guest said to his bride, Liza Minnelli, on their wedding night, no hard feelings. It is a thrill to be here this evening. Actually, it's more than a thrill, it's an obligation. No, listen, I don't wax for everybody. I'm telling you, I am excited tonight because there's no greater high than performing in front of a live audience like yourselves. In fact, the only difference between you people and pure-grade pharmaceutical morphine is that morphine doesn't judge. I am a little bit apprehensive tonight because, well, as you can see, I have no act. It's a work in progress, like Joan Rivers' neck. I call this show, If I'd Saved, I Wouldn't Be Here. Of course, if I'd saved it, all be gone anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And what better way to handle the worst economic crisis in 75 years than to get drunk and play blackjack? I'm with you! I love Australia. I've had the best time. I experienced my first wallaby last night. Delicious. And in no way am I trying to suck up to you, but I'm telling you, Melbourne has, Australia in general, you are the hottest, youngest, sexiest looking audiences I have ever played. I'm telling you it's true, and I think it's Australia Air. I met your Prime Minister yesterday, Kevin Rudd.
Poor guy.
And I'm telling you that this in person, this man is so damn boyish. At first I thought he was K.D. Lang. It's unbelievable. You know, he actually, here's a story that's totally true, like, I'm gonna lie. But, your Prime Minister once saved my life. It's true. It was 2 years ago, in New York City. I was in the Four Seasons pool, and I was doing laps, reflecting on past defeats. And he was sitting in a cabana, you know, picking his ear, eating it, you know, what he does. Doing jello shots at the pool, or whatever he does in his spare time. And I was distracted, and I took in water, and I just sunk to the bottom. And Prime Minister Rudd saw me, and he leaped from his chair, and then he didn't make it to the pool. He had to walk the rest of the way. And he jumped in and pulled me out and started giving me mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. I remember how awkward it felt having to thank the Prime Minister for saving my life, while at the same time asking him to take his hand out of my bathing suit. It was so unusual. My Speedo, my budgie smuggler. I've learned. Tonight I'm doing a one-man show, very unusual for me, because I usually work in movies and in casts and things like that, other, you know, people in Broadway, but, and people say, why at this point are you doing a one-man show? And I think it's safe to say I've reached that point in my career where no one's willing to work with me. But I always remember what Sam Newman said about doing a one-man show. He said, always leave the audience wanting less. And you know what's interesting? On the cab ride here tonight, because they wouldn't send a car, I was reflecting on the original impetus of why I wanted to do this. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, say that to Jeffrey Babco, everybody, for God's sake. I'm sorry, I got talking and I wasn't thinking. Jeffrey, if he looks at all familiar to you, and I know what you're thinking, didn't he play the villain in Da Vinci Code? No, that's a different albino. This, no, you're not swarthy, admit it. No, Jeffrey is one of the great piano player composers in Los Angeles, California. In fact, he is the keyboard player for the Jimmy Kimmel Show on ABC. And he's composed that theme, and he's written many songs and albums. And I think it's safe to say, Jeff, that you are a genius.
Thank you, Marty.
Not particularly true, but safe. He's actually one of my oldest friends. He was there when all three of my children were conceived. I know that because I was out of town making a movie at the time. And here's a fascinating thing. This man, Jeffrey Babko, became a father for the first time 2 nights ago. And I think it tells you a little bit about the mark of the man that he would leave the child and mother and fly off to Australia with me. Of course, Tangerine Babko is the little girl's name. They wanted to name their child after a fruit. Tangerine if it was a girl, and Peter Allen if it was a boy. But it was a girl. But I'm happy that you have a lovely child, and I'm thrilled that you're here. I'm honored that you're here. And Marvin Hamlish said not a chance in hell. So anyway, thank you, Jeffrey, for joining us.
Marty, thank you for having me in Australia. I always wanted to come here as a kid, and now that we're here, you know, I woke.
Shh. It's time for me to talk now. Remember, we discussed boundaries. Anyway, as I was saying, the original impetus of tonight's show was tied to these Christmas parties that my wife Nancy and I have in our home in Los Angeles in December, interestingly enough. And they're just festive and fun, and Jeff is there, and at one point I jump on the piano and I sing and dance and I tell stories, and the audience in my living room is made up of a lot of, you know, famous people and movie stars, and Whitney Houston and Bobby Brown would always traditionally come there and take the kids down to the basement at one point and teach them how to freebase myrrh. I mean, it's festive, is what I'm saying. Anyway, the other day, on the cab ride over here, the cab driver said to me, "What is the name of the film you made I hated?" And I thought, oh my God, he knows my work. And it dawned on me, here's a man who hates me for my work, but doesn't know me well enough to hate me for who I am. So that's why tonight I'm going to tell you a bit about my story, about my journey, and not be afraid to include some of the pain, just like those other people who do one-man shows who share their souls with ultimate strangers like yourselves. A lot of what I'll be telling you will be true, a lot of it I'll be making up. See if you can tell the difference, it will give you something to do. I'll tell you the first thing that is true. I have been married to the fabulous Nancy for over 25 years now, and thank you. In fact, just last week we renewed our prenup. It was so lovely. And I think the secret to a successful Hollywood marriage is you've got to be sensitive to your wife's needs and make sure your personal assistant fulfills them. Nancy and I met in autumn, and I've always loved the autumn. And when I think of autumn, I think of two things. I think of allergies and the love of a lady. Both of which can leave you with a terrible rash, but I digress for a second. So the other day, I was thinking about my love for autumn, and I went into my office and I said to Helga, our cleaning lady, "Helga, I am not to be disturbed. I can't speak German, but I can do a German accent, and that she appreciates." So I closed the door, and I went behind my desk, and I got out a pen, and I jotted out a check to my lyricist, who came up with this song, which I think perfectly captures how I feel about a little thing I like to call autumn. Jeff? Is it Jeff? It is. Now that summer's gone